Hello there, and welcome to the Dreamy Scientist, where curiosity gets cozy and science takes the scenic route to slumber. Tonight's gentle journey carries us far beyond our planet to a place where entire galaxies, massive islands of stars, drift toward one another like slow-motion dancers in the dark. Yes, we're exploring a cosmic event that sounds like science fiction, but is written in the stars. What happens when galaxies collide in space? It's a breathtaking ballet of unimaginable scale, where billions of stars swirl, stretch, and sometimes slip right past each other in a quiet chaos that unfolds over eons. But before we float into the galactic tide, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? Fitting, isn't it? A video about cosmic collisions, and here we are, gently converging across time zones. If you find this voyage soothing, intriguing, or just a lovely way to rest your mind after a long day, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave the video a like, maybe even subscribed. It helps this little corner of calm reach others who might be wandering through the stars tonight too. Now, I do hope this isn't so mesmerizing that it keeps you awake, but if it does, well, at least you'll have learned something beautiful about the vast ballet of the cosmos before you drift off. So, settle in, slow your thoughts, and let's begin. You lie weightless at the frontier of thought, breathing in a darkness so wide it feels like the pause between heartbeats. All around you, the night is patched with ancient starlight, tiny trembling embers scattered across a velvet sea. Far ahead, two galaxies shimmer like ghostly lanterns drifting on an invisible tide. At first, they seem frozen, silent, shy. But as moments layer upon moments, you detect a subtle lean, a quiet inclination, as though each luminous disk tilts its face toward the other and listens. The motion is imperceptible to hurry, yet obvious to patience, a hush whose very stillness announces change. If you place your awareness on that silence, you can sense a thread, finer than gossamer, drawn taut between their cores. That thread hums in a register deeper than sound, vibrating with the promise of union, and although your body is only a suggestion here, you feel the note resonate along the calcium of your ribs. You realize that gravity, like longing, begins as a question. Where are you? And the galaxies answer not in words, but in slow surrender. Around you, the vacuum is not emptiness, but invitation. A quiet amphitheater awaiting the first careful step in a cosmic waltz. You drift closer, letting every inhalation lengthen until air disappears as thought itself becomes breath. The scene grows, magnifies, yet never rushes. Even light seems to dim its haste, as if coached by the dark to walk instead of run. In this opening tableau you discover that collisions are less about impact and more about listening. Listening between stars, between epochs, between everything that ever wanted to touch and finally does. Here, on the lip of unfolding history, you realize that silence is not absence, but the canvas upon which the universe paints its boldest movements. Gravity greets you as a suggestion rather than a decree, a feather-light tug that gathers behind your sternum whenever you breathe too deeply. It is not the brutal yank of falling, nor the dizzy whirl of centrifugal force, but something more intimate, your own name spoken from a distance you cannot yet map. Between these galaxies, great halos of unseen matter extend like cautious arms in a courteous embrace, their particles rushing unseen, their influence as gentle as breath on frosted glass. You picture space-time not as emptiness, but as a soft quilt sagging slightly beneath every star, and in the overlapping of those sags attraction is born. This overlapping is what pulls continents of light across the gulf, what calibrates the tempo of their approach, what guides billions of suns as if they were pearls sliding toward the hollow of a palm. So you let that metaphor expand until the galaxies themselves become neighbours leaning over a shared fence, swapping stories across the twilight of the cosmos. The fence is gravity, the stories are photons, and you are both eavesdropper and participant, because each atom in you was once tuned by the same universal current. As this thought ripples through your awareness, your pulse slows, matching the calm insistence of attraction, and you surrender to the rhythm that has ruled every orbit since time began. You remember that without gravity nothing meaningful would linger, no planets, no oceans, no memories bound to flesh. So you thank the unseen hand for its patience, and in that gratitude you feel your eyelids soften, as though pulled downward by the same tender authority. To grasp the vastness separating these luminous islands, you turn your attention inward to the steady cadence of your breathing. Let one inhale represent a single light year, and let the delicate pause that follows stretch into 100. Hold that pause just a little longer, and suddenly your lungs cradle the breadth of a spiral galaxy. 100,000 light years coiled quietly under your ribs. Exhale now, slow and generous, and feel the Sarah leaving you carry 2 million additional light years, the current expanse between the Milky Way and Andromeda. Each breath becomes an abacus bead sliding across the rods of time, tallying distances that cannot be spoken in footsteps. If you attempted to count the miles aloud, sunrise would fade, civilizations would bud and wither, and still your tongue would be measuring the first syllable. So instead you let the numbers dissolve like sugar in warm water, keeping only the sweetness of comprehension. There is relief in this surrender, relief from needing to measure everything to believe in it, relief from the myth that understanding must always be numeric. Tonight understanding is a flavour, a warmth on the palate of consciousness, and you savour it patiently. Outside, photons depart ancient suns, crossing black so pure it swallows whole centuries without leaving crumbs. Yet here, in the fold of a single breath, you hold them. This is not metaphor alone. This is reciprocity. You give the cosmos attention, and the cosmos gives you scale, stretching your inner landscape until it mirrors the one you observe. With that expansion comes ease, and with ease, drowsiness, the kind that drapes gently over the shoulders like a favourite blanket at the end of an earned day. You doze lightly in this largeness, rocking on the tidal breathing of distance, feeling each heartbeat echo an epoch you will never need to name. Your gaze follows the elegant sweep of spiral arms as they curl inward, tracing trails of silver across the sable backdrop. From far away they appear deliberate, even tender, like ribbons twirled by dancers whose wrists never tire. Yet you know the truth is angular momentum and density waves, mathematics wearing a costume of beauty so convincing you forget it is mathematics at all. In quiet wonder you float closer, until the arms resolve into braided highways of gas and dust, each filament a potential nursery. Stars ride these lanes the way fireflies ride late summer breezes, seemingly random, yet always within the soft discipline of unseen currents. Some regions glow pink with hydrogen, excited by newborn suns. Others are shadowed by clouds so dense they look like smudges on the canvas of creation. You linger at the fringe of one such cloud, observing as turbulence kinks it into knots, pressurizing pockets that will someday ignite into clusters. It occurs to you that the universe is forever caught between two instincts: to disperse and to gather. Expansion scatters galaxies through time. Gravity herds matter back into luminous families. This tension hums beneath every observation, including the way your own thoughts scatter at bedtime before clustering into dreams. Recognizing the symmetry brings a soft smile to your inner self, a smile felt more than seen. The galaxies ahead continue to curve their luminous arms toward each other, choreography accelerating by fractions too small to sense, yet certainly there. You let that certainty cradle you, accepting that not all movement must be witnessed to be real. In that acceptance, your breaths grow deeper, your muscles uncoil, and the kingdom of sleep sets its gentle boundary just beyond the next blinking star. You drift nearer still, trusting the dark to guide you without hurry or harm. At the quiet centre of each spiral, a supermassive heart waits, invisible yet overwhelming, its mass millions, sometimes billions, of times that of your own sun. You cannot see it directly. Its gravity arrests even light, but you witness its signature in the pirouette of nearby stars, in the luminous rings of infalling gas that flare briefly before surrendering their radiance. Picture the black hole not as a monster, but as a monk, hooded in darkness, seated in perpetual meditation, collecting stories whispered by orbiting suns. The galaxies are temples built around these monks, every star a candle flickering in reverence, every dust lane an incense trail curling up through vaulted aisles. Tonight the monks are serene, having dined well on ancient matter. They rest in contemplation while the wider temple begins its pilgrimage toward union. As you hover above one core, you feel its gravity tug softly at the fabric of your attention, a reminder that even thoughts are subject to curvature. You imagine the curvature as a pool whose surface tension is so strong that ideas must bow in order to cross. Bending, they slow, and in their slowing you detect a hush, the same hush that permeates libraries and cathedrals, a respect for the sacred weight concentrated here. The hush spreads into you, smoothing every wrinkle of urgency that still clings to waking life. But let us float lower now, down to a younger Earth where skies held no such guardians. 4 billion years ago, the atmosphere was a stranger to you. There was no oxygen here, not one molecule. The sky was likely rust red or hazy grey, thick with methane, hydrogen, ammonia, gases that would stifle your every breath. Volcanoes heaved and spat, lightning cracked over steaming oceans. The air smelled of sulphur, not rain. And yet from those murky depths, life stirred. Tiny, unseen life. The first cells were not noble or large. They did not breathe oxygen at all. In fact, they would have died in its presence. Anaerobic cells, that is life without air, flourished in this ancient stew. They fed on minerals, on heat, on chemical gradients seeping from oceanic cracks. For more than 1 billion years, the Earth's biosphere belonged to these primitive architects. They built the stage, slowly and unseen, and then one of them made a mistake, or perhaps a miracle. A kind of cyanobacteria emerged. These microscopic blue-green threads learned to harness sunlight. They took in carbon dioxide and water and, with the soft push of photons, split molecules apart. The leftovers, oxygen. They exhaled it the way you exhale now, except no one was waiting to breathe it. It filled the seas first, oxidizing the dissolved iron into rust-red precipitates that fell like snow to the seabed, forming banded iron stone, layered memories now buried in cliffs and mountains. Then oxygen crept into the air. And the world was never the same. Scientists call it the Great Oxygenation Event, a slow drama played over hundreds of millions of years. But to the microbes of that time it was a catastrophe. Oxygen was toxic to them, a chemical curse. Many perished. Others fled into deeper anoxic pockets of water and rock, where their descendants still live today, in mud, in guts, in extreme environments where air cannot go. But some organisms adapted. They evolved machinery to use oxygen's hunger for electrons in their favour. They became efficient, fierce, enduring. In those ancient shifts, the ancestors of your own cells were born. Imagine this. Every breath you take is made possible by an extinction. A gas that once poisoned life became its lifeblood. A sky once heavy and inert became laced with possibility. And so the earth learned to breathe. Trees came later. Ferns, mosses, towering cycads. Forests exhaled oxygen in return for light. Insects grew enormous in these oxygen-rich ages. Dragonflies as wide as hawks. Millipedes the length of tables. The air carried more than just wind. It carried growth, weight, and scale. Yet the sky forgets nothing. Traces of ancient atmospheres remain, locked in bubbles beneath glaciers, recorded in the breath of ice. Scientists drill deep into Antarctic cores and find layers like tree rings, some from volcanic winters, some from blooming forests, some from burning coal. We live in a time where we can read the sky's memory, learn the old rhythms and sense the changes. The oxygen concentration in your room tonight, about 21%, is not a given. It's a balance, a breath-by-breath agreement between geology, biology, and time. You may wonder, why doesn't oxygen keep increasing? Why doesn't it fill the air to overflowing, lighting wildfires with every strike of lightning? Because there is another dance at play. For every leaf releasing O2, there is decay pulling it back down. Microbes breaking down fallen trees, animals exhaling carbon dioxide, iron binding oxygen in silent rust. The world holds its breath in a cycle, always close to equilibrium, always slightly out of tune. And now, with fossil fuels and warming air, we press against that balance. Slowly, the composition of the sky shifts, not wildly, not yet, but measurably. Still tonight, the air around you remains familiar, full of ghosts and stars. The oxygen you breathe was born of ancient seas and shaped by living forests. It lingers in the blue of the daytime sky, scattering short wavelengths, turning harsh sunlight into soft cerulean. When you look up during the day, you're not just seeing atmosphere, you're seeing oxygen's touch, bending light for your eyes to see. Even the silence of high altitudes is part of the story. Climb high enough, and there is no longer enough pressure to push oxygen into the lungs. Climbers on Everest speak of a strange calm at the summit, a trance-like state. The body, too hungry for air, begins to slow, quiet, conserve. It is a reminder that our world is not designed evenly. It is sculpted for breath near sea level, not for peaks or voids. Your chest, your blood, your very mitochondria are all tuned to this gentle pressure, this narrow window. You belong to this sky, not all skies. The next time you look up, remember, the sky is not empty. It is filled with the memory of breath, the sigh of forests, the echo of algae stirring in primeval tides. Each pulse feels to you like the burble of a distant brook, a trusting sound that something small yet determined will soon find its voice. Shockwaves ripple through the tail as gravity and gas collide in politely jostling traffic. The ripples remind you of the gentle rocking that settles a cradle. And indeed, cradles abound here. Pockets of dust thick enough to hush radiation, thick enough to let complexity knit itself quietly. You hover near one pocket and imagine amino acids assembling in some young planet still cooling. Though you know such assembly is far away and may never happen, the possibility is lullaby enough, soothing as the smell of rain on hot stone. The tail lengthens behind you, a curving path back toward the parent discs, and you realize that this bridge is both umbilical cord and handwritten invitation, offering each galaxy a taste of the other's memories. That exchange feels merciful. No hoarding, no barriers, only material and momentum given freely, like neighbours sharing seeds across a garden fence while dusk gathers. In that sharing you hear the faintest melody, and the melody hums you gently toward rest. With each silent overture, momentum passes back and forth like a lantern carried along a darkened trail. The galaxies slow their individual spins, converting rotational energy into new geometries. In some regions, the arms thicken and knot, forming bars that act like conveyor belts, funneling gas toward the waiting cores. You observe one forming, a straightened corridor of stars shimmering like a well-swept hallway in a palace about to host a gathering. Gas streams along it, heating as it compresses, lighting the corridor with newborn luminescence. The sight is grand, but not frantic. There is dignity in the pace, dignity in the way every orbit lengthens only by a hair, merely enough to make room for transformation. In that dignity you find a lesson for your own interior remodeling, the soft expansion of perspective that happens each time you forgive yourself for being imperfectly human. The bar rotates slowly, stirring the galaxy's central broth. Shock waves propagate outward and settle again, as though someone smoothed wrinkles from a silk sheet. All the while, starlight seeps around you, thick and golden, like honey left near a window on an afternoon that never ends. The sweetness of it seeps into your eyelids, weighting them. Somewhere a supernova erupts, an exclamation point in the margin of calm, but distance muffles the punctuation, leaving only as gentle emphasis, a reminder that even serenity hosts flashes of reinvention. You accept the flash the way you might accept a sudden recollection before sleep. Notice, breathe, release. The light fades back to amber, and the palace corridor shines onward, unperturbed, urging you farther into the halls of merger. You comply, letting your awareness drift upon slow-turning currents, trusting that whatever waits deeper inside will greet you with the same poised hush. The hush, in turn, folds you like wings. Before the spiral arms fully entwine, you pause at a balcony of pure perspective suspended in darkness. The galaxies loom enormous, twin murals approaching the moment when brushstrokes overlap. A hush settles, the sort that precedes snowfall in a sleeping forest, collecting against your eardrums until silence itself becomes a sound. In that hush, possibilities bloom, shock waves yet to radiate, clusters yet to hiss into life, black holes yet to spiral in a duet that will shake space-time. All that future rests inside this instant like seeds in winter soil, waiting for the right breath of warmth. You cradle the instant, knowing release will fashion beauty impossible to retrieve. Then, from overlapping halos of dark matter, a tremor unfurls, not violent but decisive, signalling that the cores have begun their final approach. It is so subtle a careless observer would miss it, but you are not careless. Your heart answers the tremor like a drum echoes a distant call. The true collision is not yet here, but its scent lingers, sweet as rain on dust. Above and below, starlight rearranges its punctuation, preparing to write sentences no telescope has yet read. As the first letter curves itself into shape, you close your eyes, not to depart, but to listen more deeply, so that in the dark you can hear the gentle syllable with which gravity now clears its ancient throat. The syllable vibrates through the void, stirring newborn stars and rousing dust clouds to shift. You feel it in your bones, a gentle announcement that nothing will ever arrange itself quite the same again. Part of you wants to stay awake, but softer wisdom reminds you that dreams observe too, so your eyelids drift closed, carrying into sleep the taste of imminent wonder. Far behind you, a comet turns its silent face to watch. its icy tail glimmering like a whispered exclamation in awe. The tremor you felt in the stillness, a deep, almost inaudible note that echoed not through air but through space itself, continues now, slowly rippling through the halos of dark matter that surround both galaxies. Though invisible to your eye, these vast halos form the quiet skeleton of what's to come, stretching beyond the luminous arms like outstretched wings made of silence. You feel them brushing, not in collision but in conversation, an exchange of presence that's more suggestion than demand. There is no push, no shove, only a patient, gravitational persuasion, like two hands reaching toward each other across the dark with no urgency to close the distance, just the sure knowledge that they will. You float near the periphery, just beyond the edge of the spiral arms, and you feel that handshake humming through the void like a slow heartbeat of space. It is not the violence of impact, but the gentleness of inevitability. This is how galaxies begin to touch, not with noise or brightness, but with the subtlest bend of motion, the tiniest invitation in gravity's timeless language. You imagine each galaxy as a traveller, long alone across the cold plains of the cosmos, sensing at last the presence of another. This meeting is not chance. It is written in their trajectories, etched into the curvature of space like the flow of rivers carved into stone. For billions of years they have moved toward each other, drawn by this soft insistence that they are not meant to remain apart. You picture the gravitational fields as breath, exhaled by one and inhaled by the other, the air between them becoming increasingly shared, increasingly warm. Stars along the outer rims begin to change course, their orbits nudged ever so slightly by this growing nearness. The change is imperceptible in a single day, or even 1,000. But in the long unfolding of time, the shift is unmistakable. You watch the first faint arcs of pulled starlight, like silk threads trailing from a seam, and you know that gravity is beginning its patient stitchwork. This is the handshake of structure itself, the way the cosmos says, we belong to one another now, and you too are drawn in, not just in spirit, but in origin. The atoms of your body once bowed to this same pull, long before they became cells and thought and skin. You're not separate from this handshake. You're part of its echo. You feel it in the marrow of your bones, in the pulse behind your eyes, in the soft way your thoughts spiral as you drift between sleep and wakefulness. It's no coincidence that your breath rises and falls like orbits, that your dreams stretch and fold like arms of light. Gravity governs you too, gently cradling you against the mattress, reminding you with every downward tug that you belong to Earth, and through Earth to stars, and through stars to this moment of celestial greeting. This realization brings a stillness so vast it feels like floating, and you let yourself rest there, swaying slightly in the unseen tide that pulls all things toward all things. Now you move closer to where the galaxy's halos blend like overlapping shadows. In this merging zone, dark matter threads entangle, guiding visible matter like invisible hands arranging dancers before a waltz. Stars that were once loosely bound to one spiral now feel the subtle persuasion of the other's centre. Some respond eagerly, shifting paths like birds adjusting to a changing wind. Others resist, pulled in opposite directions, caught in a tug of war that won't snap them but will stretch their arcs into slow, luminous loops. You drift among these stars like a quiet observer in a cathedral of movement, watching whole solar systems bend with grace you can't describe. The motion is balletic, restrained, almost reverent, like every atom remembers it is not alone. The further in you float, the more you notice the invisible hands of gravity weaving paths that seem impossibly precise. You pass near a young blue star, its light sharp as crystal, and notice how its orbit is not straight, but delicately curved, an arc forged by gravity's fingers drawing gentle lines through space. The star does not know it is being steered. It only moves, obedient to the forces it cannot see. You think about your own life, how many times you change direction not because you planned it, but because something quiet and unseen pulled you. That too is gravity, emotional gravity, the gravity of choice, of relationships, of memory. You carry those arcs within you, just as this star carries its path across light years. You understand now that gravity doesn't shout, it never forces. It waits, it leans, it listens. And somehow, through that listening, it reshapes everything. You sense the growing intimacy between the galactic centres. The space between them narrows, and though they still spin independently, their rhythms are beginning to sync. Like dancers adjusting to each other's breath, they start to mirror movements, aligning rotations in preparation for their eventual embrace. You feel this synchronization not in numbers, but in pulse. The way your own heartbeat begins to mirror the slow rhythm of their mutual orbit. The way your eyelids grow heavier in time with the lowering gap between them. Their motion isn't fast. It can't be, not across millions of light years, but it is steady, undeniable, like the hour hand inching toward midnight, and you know this is only the beginning. Above, tidal streams begin to glow more brightly, their arcs tracing the sky like silver cords tossed between lanterns. These are the first visible signs of their conversation, stellar highways born from the gentle theft of stars. Neither galaxy resists. They offer each other stars not in violence but in grace, as though understanding that to share is to grow, to open is to survive. You drift along one such stream, letting its light wrap around you like a slow current of river glow, and it carries you toward the central question: what happens when galaxies touch? But the answer doesn't come in a burst or a voice. It comes in quiet repetition, in the slow convergence of light and matter, in the way everything waits, still, just before first contact. You are here now, hovering just where the outer stars begin to cross the threshold, just where one spiral starts to tug softly on the edge of the other. The great handshake is no longer suggestion. It is beginning to tighten, to hold. And though the galaxies remain far from collision, the promise is made. And you remain, eyes half closed, floating between gravity's arms. You remain here, weightless and quiet, where the galaxy's fingers begin to brush, the soft outer spirals gently grazing each other in silence older than language. The handshake is no longer just gravitational. It is becoming physical, luminous, intimate. The distance that once held them apart has thinned into a threshold, and now that threshold blurs. One arm, a graceful spiral of starlight and dust, begins to thread through the edge of the other, not like a blade, but like a ribbon slipping through another's knot. You watch this first caress unfold, not in violence, but in choreography. A silent twining of galactic limbs in slow suspended grace. The arms don't crash, they swirl, they bend and ripple and fold around each other like silk in water, graceful even in distortion. Dust lanes, those dark, beautiful strokes through the spirals, begin to ripple and twist as the mutual pull intensifies. You float above them, witnessing how these structures, once so stable, now reshape in delicate curves, pulled like ink by capillary motion. The stars, luminous and ancient, respond to their new gravitational tug not with panic, but with obedience, like dancers shifting in tempo mid-song, adjusting their rhythm as they merge with a new pattern. You can almost hear it, the cosmic music shifting key. And yet, despite the proximity, most stars never collide. The space between them, so vast even within dense clusters, is enough to keep them apart. It's as though the dance floor is so enormous that each dancer can twirl without touching another. But their paths still change. Their orbits stretch into loops, ovals, sometimes slingshot spirals. Some are cast out toward the periphery. Some fall inward, spiraling slowly toward new centres of gravity. Every path is rewritten, subtly or drastically as the dance deepens. You see this and feel a mirrored ache in your own heart. The ache of times when two lives met and shifted each other without ever colliding. The ache of change by nearness, not impact. A stream of stars begins to stretch outward, flung from the outer curve of one galaxy like stardust caught in a breeze. This is a tidal tale, long, delicate, glowing. It arcs backward through the void, a silver thread unravelling behind the dancer's dress. Along its length, stars shine like embers and gas clouds begin to flicker with the promise of ignition. It's in these tales, far from the galactic cores, that new stars often bloom. You drift along one such arc, gazing at the ripple of light and possibility. Some of these stars were born billions of years ago, content in their quiet orbits. Others, younger, are forming now from clouds shocked by the sudden jolt of movement, like a lullaby interrupted by a soft crescendo. You hover in the midst of it, letting the heat and light of new stars warm your thoughts like candle flames. And now the spirals truly begin to entwine. You watch as one galaxy's core dips toward the plane of the other, tilting slightly, drawn downward not by will but by gravitational design. The orientation begins to shift, once nearly parallel. Now the two disks wobble in a dance of distortion. The spirals twist into bridges, and the bridges into loops. You feel it in your chest, a tightening, not of fear, but of awe. It is like watching two great rivers merge, their currents stirring into whirlpools and eddies, bringing debris, nutrients and new life into shared motion. The gas clouds, vast and ghostly, are the first to feel the intimacy of compression. Their atoms press together under the stress of motion, and the pressure kindles fire. Star formation blooms across the contact zones, flaring like constellations being sketched in real time. In one corner of the merging arms, you witness a starburst region, a cluster of furious new stars, blue and white and blazing, packed tightly like fireworks held too long before letting go. You float above it like a dreamer above the glow of a midnight city, watching energy erupt into form. These stars will live short, bright lives, burning fast, aging quickly, dying in supernovae before the merger is complete. And yet, their brief existence adds immeasurable light to the story. Back in the arms, ripples of matter swirl, creating waves that loop through the galaxies like signals through a pond. These density waves, invisible but deeply felt, guide the stars like trails through a forest, pushing them gently into new orbits. Where two arms cross, the compression triggers more collapse, more birth. The space between becomes a cradle, a nursery of unfolding. You imagine it like the inhale before a long, soft exhale. You're suspended in that breath now. The arms are no longer separate. They are laced, woven, trembling with shared history and emerging shape. You drift near the point of greatest interaction, where the gravitational fields are strongest and the orbits most distorted. Here, the beauty deepens. Streams of gas loop between the two cores like spun sugar, glowing faintly in infrared light. You feel as if you've wandered into a cathedral made entirely of motion, arches of starlight overhead, flowing corridors of dust below, and at the centre, the pull of two hearts closing in. The feeling is reverent, and you instinctively slow your thoughts, as though to avoid making too much noise in a sacred space. Everything here is deliberate, everything here is slow. One galaxy seems to lean, almost bowing, while the other spirals upward, as if responding. It's not a struggle, it's not even surrender, it's a mutual adjustment, like two dancers anticipating each other's next step. The cores do not meet yet. That moment is still billions of years away. But the choreography is set. The arms now stretch so far and curl so wide that they no longer resemble their former spirals. The classic shape begins to fade into something else, an asymmetry born not of disorder, but of merging. The old order bends toward the new. In that bending you sense both nostalgia and promise. The galaxies you knew are changing, becoming something they weren't, something they will be. You realize this is not destruction, it is growth in motion, the way tree limbs wrap around each other in a forest, the way rivers braid in the delta, the way people change when they love deeply enough to let go of who they were before the meeting. There is sadness here, yes, but it is the kind that softens rather than wounds, a sadness full of light. As the spirals settle into this entangled embrace, time itself seems to stretch. The orbits are longer now, more elliptical, and the density variations more pronounced. You pass through knots of stars that look like pearls on invisible strings, remnants of older arms preserved like bones in a new skeleton. These are records of what was, preserved within what is becoming. And still, the dance continues, slowly, delicately, without finality. Just ahead, you glimpse the next phase forming, a bar beginning to rise between the cores, a structure that will pull more gas inward, feeding the black holes that wait in quiet hunger. The bridge of light is forming. The centres prepare to lean closer, and the spiral arms, now entwined like memory and motion, stretch further into the night, and still the spiral arms stretch. Their ends now unravelled, their symmetry slowly dissolving, yet within the beautiful chaos, a deeper pattern pulses, unseen but undeniably present. Beneath the starlight and dust lanes, beneath the gas clouds igniting with newborn stars, a silent scaffolding stirs. You cannot see it with your eyes, but you feel it in the curve of motion, the unseen choreography that has guided every loop and lean so far. This is the domain of dark matter, mysterious, invisible, and yet fundamental. It is not decoration, not fringe. It is the quiet architecture of the cosmos, the bones beneath the skin of the galaxy. You drift now through this hidden realm. Here, light does not guide you. There are no stars to follow, no shining threads, yet your body knows how to move. Your thoughts drift more slowly, as if the air around them thickened, and maybe it has. Maybe the presence of dark matter is something your skin was built to sense without realizing, like the way you feel the weight of weather before it arrives. This matter does not shine, does not absorb, does not reflect. It simply is. A presence that bends space, that holds galaxies in its soft gravitational hands and keeps their stars from flying apart. Imagine now the halo, the vast spherical cloud of dark matter that surrounds each galaxy. Unlike the luminous disks, these halos extend far beyond what telescopes can see. You are in one now. You pass through it as though through fog, except this fog has no particles, no resistance, only curvature. Its gravity nudges the stars inside the galaxy like a gentle tide, allowing spirals to hold their shape, arms to maintain coherence, orbits to remain faithful. Without dark matter, the galaxies would unravel like ribbons dropped from a height, their stars slung out into the void. But dark matter holds them close, even now, even as they collide. As the two galaxies spiral toward one another, their dark matter halos are the first to truly merge, not in a flash, but in a slow interweaving of gravitational wells. Picture two invisible webs brushing together, their filaments tugging and sliding, linking at first with uncertainty, then tightening in unity. The stars and gas you see are only the decorations woven into these deeper threads. You understand now that what appears to be the main act, the swirl of arms, the birth of stars, the shaping of new forms, is only the visible reflection of something vaster happening beneath. This is the dance of dark matter, and it is not chaotic. It is deeply graceful. You pass close to one of the densest knots within the halo, a substructure, perhaps a dark matter clump left behind by a long-dead satellite galaxy. These knots, though invisible, add complexity to the gravity fields. They act like eddies in the flow, slightly bending the orbits of stars, warping gas into waves, shaping what will become visible ripples in the merged structure. Here, within this knot, you feel a slight resistance, as if time has thickened its syrup just enough for your thoughts to linger. You hover there, watching stars in the luminous arms above you respond. Not directly, not obviously, but like dancers responding to music you only now begin to hear. And it is music, not made of sound, but of motion, the vibration of trajectories, the rhythm of orbital paths adjusting. You can almost hum it if you don't think too hard. The score was written by gravity long ago, but only now, in the intimacy of collision, does it reach its crescendo. And as the halos merge more deeply, they begin to flex and stretch, responding to the new mass distribution, preparing the space for what will come. Not just one galaxy, but a new, reshaped whole. And through all this, the visible galaxies seem to follow the dark matter's lead like dancers guided by an invisible partner. A bridge of stars forms not only where gas is densest, but where the gravitational well dips ever so slightly, suggesting a path. That suggestion is enough. Stars follow, gas follows, and soon light follows too. The bridge that you saw beginning to form in the last chapter now thickens, its base carved not just by luminous gravity, but by the subtle shaping of the halo's flow. You realize that the merger is not two bodies colliding, but two great oceans of invisible mass folding into one another, stirring eddies that rise into stars, and you, still drifting quietly within the dark, begin to understand that not all truth must be seen. Some of it must simply be trusted. You do not see dark matter, but you know it is here. Just as you do not see love or memory or time, yet feel them move through you. Just as your breath shifts before your thoughts do, and the silence in a room can be heavier than noise, dark matter is the silence of the universe, but not absence. Presence, unlit, unspoken, and essential. You move now toward the combined core, the place where their galaxies' centres begin to feel each other's mass more sharply. The halos here are no longer separate. They have fused into one larger halo, though their luminous disks still resist. This dark unity becomes the stage upon which the next movements will unfold. In its depths, gas begins to fall inward, not violently, but with increasing confidence, as if it has been invited to draw close. You picture the halo now as a great bowl gently sloped, gathering marbles into its centre. Each marble a star, a cluster, a story. And while you float through this bowl of darkness, you start to feel your own thoughts deepen. Not darken, just deepen, the way a lake becomes quiet at midnight. You begin to think about how much of your own life is shaped by things unseen. How many choices are nudged by memory? How many patterns are inherited from ancestors whose names you'll never know? You realize your inner universe has its own dark matter, gravitational anchors made of emotion, intuition, rhythm. You are more galaxy than you ever thought. And just like these spirals above you, you are shaped not only by what shines, but by what holds. The merging halo shifts again, gently but unmistakably. You feel it the way a sleeping animal might feel the tremble of earth beneath the roots. The structure is stabilizing now, preparing to cradle the new core. Maybe it will write myths to explain them, stories of gods or spirits or memory. And in a way, it will be right. Because every star here is a kind of story, a record of what happens when galaxies touch. You hover above a particularly dense knot of stars, each one less than 1,000,000 years old. Their orbits are erratic, still finding rhythm, still learning the gravity that holds them. They pulse with ultraviolet light, hot and impatient. Around them, gas swirls in filaments, shocked and ionized, glowing pink where hydrogen flares into colour. You drift closer, through the mist, and it feels like walking through a forest of lanterns. The starlight hits your thoughts like a bell's tone, soft at first, then deep, then resonant. You imagine each newborn star humming its own lullaby, a lullaby you now carry in your own quiet breath. In the far distance, a supernova erupts. It is not the first, and it will not be the last. One of the massive stars, barely formed but already aged by its hunger, has collapsed inward, then rebounded with fury. The blast sends shockwaves into nearby clouds, triggering more collapse, more birth. Even death here is fertile. You feel the tremor pass through space, more felt than heard, like a ripple moving through water just beneath your skin. A moment later, you see it, a light that flashes, then blooms, then slowly dims, leaving behind either a neutron star or the silence of a black hole, and still the clouds stir. Still, gravity gathers. Still, new stars ignite. You begin to understand that this isn't a single event, but a chain reaction stretched across millions of years. Each act of birth sets the stage for another. Each death carves space for more light. And so, even in the most chaotic places, especially in the chaotic places, life finds its fire. You drift now toward the edge of one of the starburst regions. The density lessens. The light grows softer. Gas disperses like breath exhaled after a long song. You look back and see the whole region glowing like a wound healing from the inside, raw, red, alive. These stars, these clusters, will anchor the future shape of the merged galaxy. They are the seeds from which a new structure will rise, a structure that didn't exist before this encounter, a structure born of union, and far beyond the stellar cradles, beyond the drifting supernova remnants and the cocooning dust clouds, the centres of the two galaxies continue to spiral toward one another. Their black holes, silent, steady, have not yet met. But they feel the new weight. They feel the deepening pull, and the stars being born around them. They light the path. The stars being born around them light the path. And yet, despite the swirling grandeur, the infant suns, the tangled spiral arms, the spiralling black holes still closing the distance, there is a remarkable, almost holy quiet threading through the heart of it all. You drift into that silence now. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of rush. The kind of stillness that forms only when time stretches out so wide that even light has room to hesitate. This is the space between impacts, the long interlude when motion continues but contact waits, and every heartbeat in the universe seems suspended just before the next note is struck. You float through a corridor of stars that should be chaotic, crowded, clashing, but instead they pass one another like ghosts, like dancers in a vast, dimly lit ballroom whose choreography was rehearsed long before this night. Each star moves with precision, not colliding but curving, not fighting but flowing. It's counterintuitive. How can galaxies collide without their stars crashing like shattered glass? But space is immense, so immense that even in a cluster of 100 billion stars, the odds of two of them physically touching remain infinitesimal. It's not collision that marks this meeting. It's reshaping. It's gravity's patient pull, changing each trajectory without ever striking the object itself. You realize that this is how the universe often works, not by force, but by influence, not by abrupt endings, but by slow, irrevocable curves. The stars in these galaxies do not scream or spark when pulled into new orbits. They bend, they adapt, they settle into their new paths with a grace that humbles you. You think of all the times in your own life when you felt the tension of change, not from a blow, but from a quiet redirection, a shift you didn't even notice at first. And yet, looking back, everything had turned. You pass a solitary red giant now, moving slowly through the warped disk of one spiral. Its atmosphere pulses, extended and fragile, like the breath of someone half asleep. It is ancient, older than Earth's oldest stone, and its orbit, once familiar, is now altered. But the star does not resist. It continues. It glows. Its path may have changed, but its purpose has not. You linger near it, warmed by its radiation, and feel comfort in its steadiness. Here in the quiet, even in the midst of transformation, constancy exists. Farther ahead, you drift near a region between the spiral arms, once a low-density zone, now stirred and compressed by the gravitational dance. Here, smaller stars, dwarfs, cool and faint, drift in graceful solitude. Many have escaped the tightening grip of the galaxy's cores, flung out along paths that might lead them beyond the final shape of the merger. These are the stellar exiles, lone travellers cast loose not by violence, but by the momentum of movement. You watch them pass like embers on a slow wind. Some will wander the edges of the eventual merged galaxy. Others may sail into intergalactic space, eternal pilgrims. And still, they shine. The silence deepens the longer you drift. There is something sacred about this interval. Not an ending, not yet a beginning. A cosmic inhale before the next phase. You find that your thoughts begin to match this rhythm. They spread out like ripples across a calm lake. In this quiet stretch, you remember that growth does not always come with noise. Sometimes the most important transitions happen in stillness, in the pause before words, in the gap between decisions, in the slow arc of two galaxies not yet touching at the core. Below you, streams of gas continue to move, trailing behind the spiral arms like mist. Some of these filaments are so long they appear to have no end, fading into the soft edges of halo light. Others swirl inward, tracing wide ellipses toward the galactic centres. There is tension in their motion, tension not of resistance, but of anticipation. You know the cores are drawing closer, their gravity deepens with each passing million years. But this moment, this long pause, is theirs too. The dark matter halo remains stable, supporting the galaxy's new orientation like a hand beneath delicate wings, and you realize not all preparation is visible. Much of it is hidden, foundational, holding space for the inevitable. As you float through this vast in-between, you notice a small globular cluster orbiting far above the disk. It is quiet, compact, a sphere of stars bound tightly by gravity and history. These clusters orbit the galaxy like memory orbits a mind, not always in the foreground but constant. This one likely predates the merger, perhaps even predates the galaxies as they now appear, and still it remains. You drift through its edge, brushing past red stars packed so densely they seem stitched into place. Within this crowd, time feels older, slower, as though here, far from the glowing arms and starburst regions, the universe has chosen simply to be still. The cluster continues its wide arc, and you, now quieted by its hush, return to the broader canvas of the merging galaxies. Their forms are changing again. You see it now from a distance. The elegant spirals that once spun so proudly are softening. The symmetry frays. The arms, pulled and stretched and wrapped around one another, begin to resemble tendrils rather than discs. The tidal features lengthen like brush strokes on liquid canvas. You feel no sadness at the loss of their previous shapes. Instead, you feel reverence for what they are becoming, for how they have danced through this silent space, reshaping one another not through collision, but through approach. And still, the black holes remain apart. Still, the centres circle. But they are nearer now. You can feel it in the tightening of the gravitational fabric, in the stars whose orbits begin to wobble, in the slow draw of gas into bars that twist through the galactic midsections like glowing ropes. The silence is thinning. The pause is ending. But for a moment longer, it remains. And in that moment, you exhale softly and let yourself drift in the quiet, listening not for what comes next, but simply being here, where nothing has collided and everything has changed. You remain in that hush, just long enough to feel the weight of what's coming. This silence has texture now, like velvet stretched across the surface of space. It is no longer stillness for its own sake. It is the final, measured breath before something ancient leans forward, something central, something inevitable. Below you, though in space, there is no true below. The two galactic cores move within range of each other's deepest gravity. Not their stars, not their arms, not their halos, but their hearts. And at the heart of each, a supermassive black hole, seated like a quiet monarch upon a throne of invisible weight. You cannot see them, not even the faintest glimmer. They do not glow, they do not shimmer, but you know where they are because the stars swirl faster there. Gas streaks inward, hot and insistent. Space itself curves steeply around their presence, as if it were folding inward, trying to hold something too heavy for shape. You drift into the narrowing space between them, where two gravitational giants begin to acknowledge one another, not with violence, but with the careful, circling tension of powerful entities learning to share the same throne room. There is no crash. There is no sudden merge. Their dance begins with distance, with slow spirals around a common centre of mass not yet fully defined. Each black hole feels the other, not with eyes, not with sound, but with space-time itself, bent, stretched, humming. You feel it too. A low, deep tone that doesn't ring in your ears but in your bones. A gravity song with no melody and yet perfect rhythm. They are not rushing. They cannot. The distance between them still spans light years, and yet they draw closer, inch by inch, as if each were tethered by a cord spun from time. Around them, the galactic material gathers, stars, dust, clusters, all swirling in new orbits, drawn toward this growing centre, responding to the doubled pull. You see stars flung into wider ellipses, others tightening toward the heart. their path skewed by the shifting gravity landscape. It is a ballet of enormous patience, a choreography so complex you wonder if even time itself has paused to watch. Between the black holes, an inflow begins. The bar structures, those luminous highways of stars and gas, become funnels, drawing matter toward the dual cores. Not everything makes it. Some clouds fragment, some stars slingshot away. But enough falls inward to stoke the accretion disks, the hot rotating halos of gas that circle the black holes like whispered offerings. Friction lights the gas until it shines across the spectrum, radio, X-ray, visible, invisible. The black holes remain black, but their meals illuminate them indirectly, like candles glowing near a sleeping figure you cannot quite see. One of them flares. You feel it before you see it. A sudden sharp heat that spreads across the scene like sunrise. A quasar may be forming, and yet they do not touch. They circle. They wait. You drift closer now, approaching one of the black holes. It is vast beyond reckoning, millions of times the mass of your own sun. And yet, it takes up no space. Its event horizon is merely the place where time folds inward. You peer toward it but see no bottom, only the way light bends around it, curving like ribbons drawn too tight. It is not hungry in the way mouths are hungry. It consumes with dignity, with stillness, allowing matter to choose proximity before it seals its fate. And even as it pulls, it teaches. The stars nearby move faster, warped by its presence, their orbits sharpened like pencils pressed too hard. As you float near its outer zone, still safely distant from its event horizon, you sense that you're standing at the lip of comprehension. This is a place where math becomes reality, where gravity warps not just space, but time. A second here may stretch. A thought may echo longer. If you remained too long, even your memories would feel different. You do not fear it. You respect it. The black hole does not destroy you. It teaches you about your limits, what you can see, what you can know, what you must feel instead of calculate. Then your attention shifts. The second black hole is coming into focus. The distance between them is shrinking. The orbits have grown tighter. What was once a drifting awareness has become a focused gaze. They circle each other now, no longer separated by light years, but by mere parsecs, a closeness forged over hundreds of millions of years. And though they still remain distinct, the shape of the galaxy around them begins to deform, to swirl towards singular union. The stars between them thin out, pulled into warped ellipses or flung into interstellar exile. The central region darkens, not with shadow, but with potential. There is a name for this moment. The final parsec problem. A theoretical slowing, where the black holes spiral in but stall, waiting for gravitational waves or wandering stars to carry away the last bits of angular momentum. And yet, this moment does not feel stalled. It feels sacred. You hover in the space between them, feeling the push and pull of two immense wells of time, each a mirror to the other, each changing the shape of space for light years around. You close your eyes and feel your own pulse begin to match the rhythm of their slow spiral, an ancient rhythm that predates all language. Suddenly, you are aware of how many stories are folding into this space. Every star that orbits near them has its own history, formed in some cloud, somewhere in the outskirts, warmed into light, and now caught in a field too complex for escape. Some of those stars will be swallowed. Others will slingshot away, carrying with them information encoded in their final speeds. These are the messengers of the future. You watch one such star, a blue giant, arc dangerously close to the nearer black hole. It wobbles, slows, then accelerates in a loop so wild it leaves a ribbon trail behind your vision. The star escapes, barely, but it escapes, and you find comfort in that even here escape is possible. But the centre is drawing tighter still. You now see gravitational waves in your mind's eye, not visual but imagined, like ripples on a pond you cannot see, only feel. These waves will carry the final energy away. They will ring out when the black holes merge, like a bell rung in a vacuum, soundless but real. That moment is still far away, perhaps millions of years, but this is the moment before, the anticipation, the drawn breath. And the galaxies, the stars, the dark matter, everything seems to lean inward, waiting for it, and so do you. You drift once more between them, weightless and timeless, knowing that they are circling still, not touching, not yet, but near, so very near, so very near. And yet still they spiral, not colliding, not quite merging, only tightening their steps in the gravity-woven dance. Behind them, stretching outward like memories pulled from a dreaming mind, are the luminous trails of their passage. Tidal tales, long elegant streams of stars and dust and gas, drawn out from their galactic disks as if by invisible fingers. These are not remnants, not debris, but testaments. They trace where the galaxies have been and hint at what they are becoming. They are motion made visible, history written in starlight. You drift into one now, letting it carry you like a river. It stretches for hundreds of thousands of light years, curving outward and backward, a silvered arc suspended in the vastness. It is quiet here, not empty, but hushed. The stars are more sparsely scattered, the gas diffused like candle smoke across the night, and yet, even in this seeming thinness, there is life, there is creation. Tidal tales are not simply aftermaths, they're fertile regions born from tension, from the stretch of gravitational yearning. And in that stretch, pressure gathers, clouds collapse, stars ignite. You float through one such pocket now, a cluster of warm young stars still wrapped in the glow of their own becoming. These stars would not have formed had the galaxies not met, had the spirals passed each other like strangers in the dark, never interacting. These very embers would not have kindled. It reminds you that sometimes it's the pulling apart, the tearing of familiar paths, that creates the most unexpected light. You feel this in your own memory now, the times when you felt displaced, stretched, even broken. How afterward, something new began, something you never expected. And perhaps that's what tidal tales are, the sky's memory of that beautiful discomfort, that gravitational longing that shapes light from loss. The stream around you flickers with variation. Some sections are dense with clusters, tight and glowing, like knots in thread. Others are wide, nearly transparent, where only the faintest stars drift alone. As you pass through these quieter pockets, you feel their solitude, not sad, but soft. These stars are wanderers now. They may never rejoin the core of the merging galaxies. They will orbit on the outskirts, skimming the edges like distant thoughts, far from the roaring centre but no less real. You feel kinship with them, as if you too have orbited far from your centre, tracing long, reflective arcs through time. Far ahead, a second tail loops in from the opposite direction, like a mirror image spiralling outward from the other galaxy. The two tails curve through space like the trailing ribbons of dancers mid-spin, luminous and interwoven, yet never tangled. Where they cross, gravitational eddies form, tiny pockets of disturbed motion where gas gathers and stars are born in strange unrooted regions. You move toward one of these crossing points now. The stars here are bluer, younger. Their heat pulses with an urgency you feel in your own lungs. It's as though this place is too alive to rest, too new to be still. And yet even here, beauty reigns. Not the symmetry of design, but the elegance of nature responding to force. You realize that everything you've seen since this cosmic encounter began, the warped arms, the spiral collapse, the trails of starlight stretching like silk, are all responses to gravity. Gravity does not shout, it does not rush, it merely waits, and everything moves toward it. You begin to see the tails not as appendages, but as bridges, between galaxies, between past and future, between what once was and what is still forming. They hold evidence of encounter, like footprints in a field after the dancers have passed. Astronomers will study these tails and learn of ancient interactions, will map their curves and trace backward the history of two galaxies who met and never let go. You float within one of those curves now, aware that you are drifting through data, through a future record of a past moment. The stars around you are not random. They are placed by gravity's hand, like beads strung on an invisible thread. Within one of the longer tails you find something unexpected, a tidal dwarf galaxy. A new formation spun from the cast-off material of the two parents. It is small, irregular, almost humble, but its stars are fresh and bright. You hover near its edge, watching how it clings to its orbit, holding on against the pull of both parent galaxies. It reminds you of a child born in transition, small, uncertain, but brimming with inherited strength. Tidal dwarf galaxies are rare, yet here one is, turning slowly, lighting up a patch of space that once knew only drifting gas. Around the dwarf, smaller clusters dot the sky, faint glimmers that may never become galaxies, but will live for billions of years as pockets of starlight. You pass through them like a swimmer moving through sunlit water, weightless and welcome. These stars too are born of the interaction, not remnants, not leftovers. They are testimony to the idea that nothing in the universe is wasted. Even the torn edges shine. You rise now, moving above the tails, gaining a vantage from which you can see their full sprawl. The merging galaxies lie in the middle, like a pair of suns caught in each other's orbits, and from them stream these elegant tendrils, curving outward and backward, forming a double spiral drawn not by brush or pen, but by time. The shape is delicate, it is immense, it is fleeting. One day these tails will fade, some stars drawn back in, others lost to the outer dark. But for now, they exist in full bloom, as if the universe itself paused to witness their grace. The image remains in your vision even as you close your eyes. Two galaxies in the act of becoming one, their motion trailing behind them like wedding veils fluttering in a galactic wind. You wonder, not for the first time, if the universe knows how beautiful it is, if somewhere in the deep, quiet architecture of existence it notices the symmetry it creates in passing. Or perhaps that's your task, to notice, to witness, to drift here, within the streams of stars and understand that this too is a kind of miracle. Below, the black holes continue their slow, final spiral. The cores tighten, the bar of stars connecting them grows brighter, and behind them the tails shimmer, soft, elegant reminders of how even great collisions can leave trails of grace. Behind them, the tails shimmer, soft, elegant reminders of how even great collisions can leave trails of grace. But as your gaze returns to the centre, to the glowing spine where the galaxy's hearts inch toward union, you begin to feel it, the heat. Not the kind that scorches or startles, but a deep blooming warmth, like coals buried beneath ash, like breath exhaled in a closed room. This is not the heat of stars. It is not fire born of fusion. This heat is quieter, more diffuse, and in many ways more telling. It is the thermal whisper of friction, of motion slowed and energy released, not as light, but as temperature. The galaxies have begun to stir not just the fabric of space, but the very thermodynamics of the cosmos between them. You drift lower, drawn toward the bridge of Reyes forming between the galactic cores. At first glance it seems calm, flowing, smooth, luminous with starlight, but beneath that radiance something else simmers. You see it now, waves of hot gas, stirred by the motion of the merging systems, pressed and squeezed as material collapses inward. In some places, shock waves ripple through interstellar clouds, compressing them like fists into blankets of heat. The temperature here can soar into the millions of degrees, not because anything exploded, but because gravity has insisted upon new arrangements. Kinetic energy, stirred from the swirling galaxies, converts quietly, invisibly, into thermal energy, and space, always patient, holds the warmth without complaint. You move deeper into one of these hot regions. The gas glows faintly in X-ray wavelengths, invisible to human eyes, but not to the instruments that map the sky in light beyond light. Here, pressure builds without sound, without flame, without chaos. Instead, atoms vibrate faster, bounce more frequently, their collisions more frequent and forceful. And though they do not speak, they radiate. You can feel their story as a rising hum, not noisy but insistent. This is what it means to stir the cosmos. This is what it means to merge not with explosion, but with accumulation. The galaxies are not just folding into each other, they are warming the very medium between their stars. What was once cold, dark void, now pulses with heat from motion alone. This is hidden fire, the kind you only see if you wait long enough, if you learn how to watch with senses that listen rather than reach. In this heat, stars will not form, not yet. The gas is too hot, too pressurized. It must cool again first, must exhale before it can collapse into something dense and brilliant. And so it waits. Warm, rising, slowly releasing energy into the galactic wind. All around you, the consequences of motion accumulate. Massive clouds of gas slide through one another, and where they do, turbulence ignites. Vortices form, great slow eddies of ionized hydrogen and helium, swirling for light years across. You pass through one such eddy now, and the heat brushes your thoughts like steam, not painful, but present. In this swirl, metals mix, elements blend, and the fingerprints of past supernovae are carried like whispers into new regions. The chemical language of the galaxies is being rewritten here, not with ink, but with temperature. And above it all, gravity continues to work. Not fast, not loud, but relentlessly. It draws hot gas into filaments, into plumes, into streamers that stretch like molten threads across the merging plane. These glowing lines arc through the darkness, forming invisible conduits that channel heat away from the centres. You drift along one now, following it like a child might follow a crack in a frozen lake, eyes wide, breath slow. Where it ends, new pressure pockets form, places where cooling will begin, where perhaps in millions of years stars will emerge from the soot of today's heat. In this chapter of the merger, nothing is destroyed. But everything is changed. You understand that heat is a kind of memory. It is motion, remembered as warmth. And the galaxies remember everything, every tilt, every orbit disrupted, every cloud compressed. The warmth beneath you is history, rising slowly into the present, reminding the stars of where they've been and where they're going. You pass through a region where the heat becomes more visible, where gas so dense and so pressed begins to radiate visibly in the red and violet ends of the spectrum. This is a furnace not of fire but of friction, the movement of billions of particles brushing, folding, resisting, yielding. There are no flames, but there is glow, a soft plum-coloured wash across the void, like twilight stretched too long. You pause within it, letting the warmth soak into your imaginary skin, and for a moment it feels like rest, like the warmth that follows pain, the warmth that follows work. This is not a dangerous heat. It is earned. Closer to the galactic cores, the heat sharpens. Here, gas is funneled inward through the bars formed in the previous chapters, a glowing river pouring down into the heart of the merger. As it falls, it accelerates. And as it accelerates, it compresses. The compression spikes the temperature, sending streams of X-ray light rippling through the inner regions. These X-rays will travel for millions of years, passing unnoticed through whole systems, until one day they are caught by a distant telescope and decoded as a message. A galaxy was changing here. And still the black holes circle. Still the stars shift. Still the temperature rises. But not everywhere. On the fringes, where the tidal tails extend, where the streams drift quietly into intergalactic space, the heat lessens. The gas there remains cold, waiting. Perhaps it will never be stirred. Perhaps it will remain as it is for 1 billion more years, until some future interaction breathes motion into it again. Or perhaps even now, it is beginning to cool, to settle, to seed. You drift there a moment, feeling the gradient between heat and cold, movement and stillness. You exist in the between. In this hidden fire you find no destruction, only transformation. A galaxy warmed is not a galaxy broken. It is a galaxy awakening. Everything you've witnessed, from the spark of starbirth to the slow spiral of black holes, is held within this rising thermal hush. And though this chapter carries no flash, no collision, it is no less profound. The heat will shape what comes next. It will guide the timing of stars. It will soften clouds. It will linger, and so will you. For now you remain within the warmth, floating above a galaxy that glows from within, its structure reshaped, its centre tight with gravity, its edges trailing off into starlit wisps. Somewhere beneath you, another shockwave forms. Somewhere beyond, a gas filament cools. And still, ahead, the spiral continues to tighten. Still, ahead, the spiral continues to tighten. And as you drift above the glowing centre of this galactic union, held in warmth and gravity's gentle hush, you begin to feel a new awareness stir within you, not of what was or even what is, but of what will be. For what you've watched unfold in distant space, in a place far beyond the tender orbit of Earth, is not a singular story. It is a mirror. It is prophecy. And now you turn your gaze back, homeward, to your own galaxy. The Milky Way, spinning, luminous, and not alone. Far across the dark, Andromeda waits, not as an intruder, not as a threat, but as a future partner. You tilt into the familiar spiral of the Milky Way, hovering above it as though floating over a dream you forgot you were part of. Its arms curl in elegant symmetry, dotted with the gentle pearls of star clusters and veiled with shadowy streaks of dust. The bulge at its centre glows like the slow ember of a fire too large to fade. It feels like home, not because of geography, but because so much of you came from here. Every breath, every thought, every heartbeat, forged from atoms birthed in these arms. You know it not as an outsider, but as a child returning. But you also see it clearly now as a galaxy not frozen, not isolated, but in motion. Andromeda, larger, heavier, moving silently through the dark, is approaching. 2 million light years and shrinking. The gap narrows with each passing moment, invisible to the human eye, yet certain in trajectory. You see the vector drawn in the fabric of space, a line arcing forward, deliberate and irreversible. In about 4 billion years, the galaxies will begin to merge, the same way you've just witnessed, in awe and silence and slow unravelling light. And though the timeline feels distant, abstract, almost unreal, your body knows better. It feels the future like a pulse already begun, a rhythm reaching backward from tomorrow. You fly now above the space between them, between the Milky Way and Andromeda, and it no longer seems like emptiness. It is charged with potential. Wisps of hydrogen drift there, ancient remnants from when the universe first cooled. Rogue stars sail through, messengers without planets, light alone. There are even small galaxies, satellite companions, pulled into the widening gravity field between these giants. The local group, it's called. A gathering of galaxies bound not by closeness, but by fate. You see them like distant cousins standing in the same wide room, each one watching, waiting, orbiting a conversation that has already begun. Andromeda draws closer still. It spins like the Milky Way, a spiral of stars and dust and invisible mass. But its bulk is greater, its central black hole more massive. You feel its weight before you even reach it. You skim its outermost stars, ones that stretch like arms in longing across the darkness. They flicker like candle flames caught in a quiet wind. You imagine them already sensing the Milky Way's nearness, even though the final meeting lies billions of years ahead. There is something poetic in that kind of anticipation, a gravitational yearning written into every orbit. Both galaxies, you now realize, are preparing. In the Milky Way, your solar system spins in a calm pocket of an outer arm, seemingly immune to the drama ahead. And yet even Earth's orbit carries within it the faintest tremor of the future. Your sun, so dependable, so central in the story of human life, is itself part of this larger dance, riding the spiral as it narrows toward convergence. One day, the sky above Earth will change. Slowly, yes, over millions of years. But change nevertheless. Andromeda will grow brighter. A faint smudge will become a silver arc, then a halo, then a mirror, a second spiral etched into the sky. You picture it. The night sky filled not just with stars, but with structure. Arms curling across the heavens, clusters blooming like flowers, the silhouette of another galaxy rising beside the familiar constellations. It will not happen quickly. It will be slow, like watching continents drift. But one day, if eyes still watch the sky from Earth, or from some other world that bears your trace, they will look up and see the first brush of collision, the beginning of merger, and when that time comes, the process will echo what you've already witnessed. Arms entwined, dark matter halos merging, clouds compressed, stars born in chaos and light. The central black holes will spiral toward one another, tidal tails will stretch behind the colliding disks, and a new galaxy, one larger, rounder and steadier, will emerge from the storm. Astronomers call it Milkomeda, a name born from union. You smile at that. How even science, so careful with precision, cannot resist poetry. And as you float in the imagined future sky, watching two galaxies become one, you think not of ends, but of continuance. For nothing here ends in fire. The Earth may survive, the solar system may drift to a quieter orbit, or it may be cast into a new trajectory altogether, but life will go on, in stars, in light, in new beginnings shaped by collision. The universe is not careless. It recycles everything, even gravity. You linger now midway between the present and what's to come, between the Milky Way and Andromeda, between what is known and what is felt. And from this middle place, you listen. You hear the long, slow draw of motion. You hear the whisper of dust gathering in clouds. You hear the pulse of space curving ever so slightly, tightening the arc of encounter. You know the galaxies are still far apart. You know the heat of merger lies ahead. But you also know the journey has already begun. You look back one more time toward the Milky Way. Its arms shimmer, its stars pulse. Its core glows like the hearth of a house not yet abandoned. And far off, Andromeda glints like a second heartbeat. They are approaching, and between them you drift, carried by time, by gravity, by the warm hush of destiny not yet arrived. And between them you drift, carried by time, by gravity, by the warm hush of destiny not yet arrived. But what is destiny, if not the patient shaping of form over time? What is a galaxy, if not the memory of motion made visible? You linger now where the two spirals have already begun to forget their edges. Milky Way and Andromeda, once distinct, now softened in profile, smeared in gravity's gentle hands. They no longer resist. Their arms no longer swing alone. They are becoming something new, and you are here to witness it. You turn slowly through the thickening fog of stars, of heated gas and flared light, and for a moment it's hard to tell where one galaxy ends and the other begins. The collision, already in progress, is not sudden. It is not violent. It is vast and slow and almost tender. Arms once wide and elegant are now twisted like strands of ribbon wrapped around a shared axis. What once was structure becomes swirl. Spiral symmetry dissolves into fluid motion. The two galactic disks sink into one another like overlapping waves, folding in turbulence, then settling gradually into a new form. There is beauty in the breaking, not the kind that shatters, but the kind that reshapes. You hover above what was once the galactic plane, and is now a storm of motion, stars jostling in disrupted orbits, clusters migrating like birds after a wind. Beneath the chaos, a new order begins to take shape. You can feel it in the gravitational centre forming like a seed in soil, in the way the stars start to follow new curves, new patterns. The disk thickens, the symmetry stretches into oval and then round. This is how an elliptical galaxy is born, not from a blueprint but from surrender. Two spirals lose themselves in one another and emerge, not vanished but transformed. You feel no grief in this loss, only awe, because nothing is truly lost. Every star still shines, every atom still spins. They have not been destroyed, only invited into new motion. Even the cores, those once lonely black holes, have begun to circle each other tightly, caught in a spiral so small, so dense, that space itself begins to ring. Gravitational waves ripple out, like the last note of a vast bell. Somewhere far in the future, these waves will reach quiet planets orbiting quiet stars. Perhaps someone will listen. Perhaps someone already is. But here, now, the form continues to emerge. The stars, once confined to the disk, now move in all directions, no longer rotating in a plane, but bouncing, looping, arcing through the new spherical centre like bees in a sunlit orchard. Their movement is not random, it is statistical, predictable in aggregate. You feel it like the rhythm of rain, no two drops the same, yet together a pattern. The dust settles in arcs and pockets, the gas collapses into fresh bursts of stars. The bright blue of new suns flares against the soft red of old giants, painting the newborn galaxy in warm and cool hues. The shape is no longer a spiral. It is more like a halo, a golden egg floating in the dark, and it pulses, not in light, but in density, in temperature, in gravitational sway. You see the way it bends nearby space, not like a whirlpool, but like a hearth, a centre of mass so concentrated that everything near it bows, orbits, slows. Even you feel it, faintly tugging at the edge of your thoughts, a gravity that calls you not down but inward. You drift deeper into the core now. Here, the black holes have almost met. Their spiral is tight. Their orbit shrinks with each pass, each pulse of gravitational waves robbing them of momentum. They are still distinct, two singularities locked in the final act of a long, slow ballet. Around them, stars form a glowing shroud, caught in erratic motion, tracing figure eights and ellipses and broken spirals. These are the witnesses, the recorders. One day, when the black holes finally merge, it will not explode, it will not shine, but the space around it will remember. The light of the stars will change direction. A flicker, a shift, a cosmic blink. But that moment is not here yet. What is here is the becoming. What is here is the silence after the waves settle. You rise above the galactic core and see the full shape of this new being. It is not named. It is too young for that, but it is unmistakably a galaxy, a great glowing city of stars suspended in the dark, haloed in dark matter, pulsing with heat and motion and time. It does not spin as the spirals did. It vibrates. It breathes. Its stars are not fixed. They wander, yet they belong, and it belongs now to the universe as one whole. No longer two. The halo stretches wide, far wider than either galaxy alone, and in its outskirts tidal streams still trail like memories refusing to fade. You follow one now, a ribbon of old stars drifting into the outer dark. They are slower here, cooler, but they still glow. You hover near one and feel its age like warmth from a faded letter, like sunlight through lace. This star was born in the Milky Way, flung outward during the merger, yet still tracing the curve of the new shape, still part of the whole. You realise something then. A galaxy is not a fixed place. It is not a structure or a category or a name. It is a movement, a record of motion shaped by time. And what you see before you now is not the final form. It will continue to evolve. Stars will burn and die. Gas will cool and collapse. Orbits will settle. Dust will drift into new arrangements. The galaxy will breathe and shift and reshape itself again and again, long after your watching ends. It will hold the memory of what came before, of spirals and collisions and tidal tales, but it will not stay in memory. It will live forward, and so will you. You watch this new galaxy glow, still warm with the energy of becoming. It has not yet settled, but it has begun. You feel your breath slow to match its rhythm. You let your thoughts soften into that pulse. It doesn't need a name to be known. It doesn't need a label to be beautiful. It is a song in the middle of its first verse, and somewhere inside it, Earth still spins. Somewhere inside it, a star like yours burns. Somewhere inside it, stories continue, on planets, in minds, in dreams. You rest within this awareness, knowing that creation does not end, it only transforms. You rest within this awareness, knowing that creation does not end, it only transforms. And yet even transformation needs something constant, something soft and ever-present, moving like a tide beneath all things. That something is time. Time, here in the galactic cradle, does not feel like the ticking of seconds. It does not hurry or divide. It expands. It stretches out like the fabric beneath your feet, like the sky behind your eyes when you close them. You begin to feel its texture now, woven of starlight and silence, memory and possibility. Not a ruler, but a rhythm. Not a clock, but a current. Above you, the new galaxy breathes into being, still warm from the great merger. Its stars glow gently, as though exhaling after the long embrace. Some of them move fast, hurtling in loops around the newly formed centre. Others drift like feathers caught in a breeze. But all of them are tethered by time, curved by it, choreographed by its invisible hand. You watch their movements and realise something quiet. This isn't chaos. This is dance. Not a frenzy, not stumble, but a waltz. Slow, elegant, inevitable. Time is the music galaxies dance to. You drift through the halo of this newborn elliptical galaxy, past stars that have no memory of being apart. You pause near a luminous cluster, young and glowing blue. Their light is sharp, eager, like laughter echoing in a high room. These stars are newly born, pulled together by the turbulence of collision. Their birth was not peaceful. It was the product of shock waves and compression, where clouds of hydrogen were squeezed until they ignited. And yet here they are now, stable, shining, steady, already aging, already ticking forward on the great cosmic clock. You follow one such star and feel its timeline stretched before you like a scroll. In a few million years it will swell into a giant. In a few million more, it will cast off its outer layers in a soft glowing breath, what we call a planetary nebula. At its centre, a white dwarf will remain, cooling over eons. Time will fold around it, not as punishment, but as patience. Nothing is wasted. Even the fading has meaning. Further out you find older stars, dimmer, redder, wiser. They spin more slowly. Their light is gentler. They have seen more revolutions. They're not surprised by gravity's touch or by the shape of orbit. Some are part of long-lost globular clusters, relics of the galaxy's ancestors. Their orbits wobble like memories stirred from sleep. You listen to them hum their age, not in sound but in stillness. Even the dust remembers. The dark lanes that arc through the galaxy's curves carry the weight of time like folded letters, like sediment in the ocean floor. They move slowly, bending into gravity's will, drifting between stars as if searching for where to settle next. In some places they are gathering again, thickening into clouds. You recognize the signs. These are the nursery walls of future stars. Even in the afterglow of galactic upheaval, time makes space for beginning. Always. And in the centre of it all, that great pair of black holes has finished their spiral. They are no longer two. They have become one. Massive, unseen, silent, yet unmistakably there. You feel the density of it in your chest, the way space bends inward, the way time itself slows near the edge. In that dark heart, a second feels like a year. 1,000 years pass in a breath beyond the event horizon. To fall in would be to fall out of time as you know it. Yet even this collapse follows the rhythm. Even this stillness is part of the dance. You wonder how long this new galaxy will endure. billions of years perhaps, long after Earth's surface changes, long after stars rise and burn out and rise again. It will stretch and settle and cool. It may collide again someday. Nothing is truly still in the universe. Even the vastest structures are always moving, always responding to time's soft pull, and time itself is not untouched. You drift beyond the galaxy now, floating in the open dark between clusters. Time here feels different, thinner, more transparent. Without gravity to warp it, without motion to anchor it, it runs straight, clean. You look out over the fabric of the cosmos and see how time pools where mass gathers, how it stretches across voids. It is not uniform, it is sculpted. Gravity is its brush. Somewhere, far across that darkness, other galaxies are dancing too. Some spiral in place, arms wide and bright. Others have already merged, some are alone. Others drift in clusters, swirling toward shared fates. And you feel it all moving. Not chaotically, but with an ancient steadiness, like breath. Like a song you forgot you knew. The universe is not in a rush. It does not worry about deadlines or endings. It grows by expanding and folding, by merging and remaking. It trusts time to take care of change, and perhaps you can trust that too. You think of Earth now, so small, so sharp, so full of clocks and schedules and ticking screens. How different it feels from this spacious rhythm. But deep down, Earth is part of this waltz too. Its orbit is a circle within a galaxy within a cluster. Its time is a thread in a much longer weave, and your body, your breath, your thoughts, they all carry the same rhythm, though it may be buried beneath noise and hurry. You breathe slowly, and in that breath you hear time again, not as pressure, but as presence. And the galaxy continues to waltz. Its stars loop, its dust drifts, its gravity folds and smooths the fabric beneath it. You do not need to rush. Time holds you too. And just as you begin to let go fully into that stillness, into that deep understanding, you sense something. A ripple at the edge of the dark, a whisper from farther out. Something vast, something older still. A movement not of stars, but of galaxies themselves drawn toward one another in the deeper currents of space. You sense something. A ripple at the edge of the dark, a whisper from farther out. Something vast, something older still. A movement not of stars, but of galaxies themselves, drawn toward one another in the deeper currents of space. You drift away from the newly formed galaxy, rising beyond its warm glow, beyond the clustered arms of stars and the quiet pulse of its core, and you find yourself adrift in the grander architecture of the universe, the cosmic web. Here, space stretches and weaves in patterns so immense they defy easy imagining. You float through this enormous lattice, threads of dark matter spun across billions of light years, connecting galaxies like beads strung on a spider's thread. The filaments are not visible to the naked eye, yet you feel their presence in the way galaxies gather, in the paths they take, and in the flow of matter itself. They form the cosmic scaffold, the invisible hand that guides the dance of galaxies and clusters, pulling and tugging, shaping the very shape of the universe. You imagine this web as a vast river system. The filaments are mighty streams and narrow tributaries, channeling matter through space's quiet valleys. Galaxies flow along these rivers, sometimes gathering at their confluences into clusters so dense they seem to glow with the combined light of thousands of suns. You drift near one such cluster, a vast congregation of galaxies bound by gravity, spinning slowly around a common centre. You feel the gravity well here. a deep indentation in the fabric of space-time, pulling stars, gas and dark matter alike toward its heart. The galaxies here are not static. They move, sometimes in delicate harmony, sometimes in chaotic rushes, but always guided by the currents of the cosmic web. You watch as smaller galaxies fall toward larger ones, drawn in by their gravitational embrace, spiraling ever closer in slow, inevitable orbits. Collisions and mergers are common here, but even more common is the gentle flow, an endless, patient migration through space. You drift through one filament, a narrow, luminous thread stretching like a bridge between two clusters. The density here is higher than the surrounding void, with tenuous gas clouds glowing faintly in ultraviolet light, and galaxies dotted along the line like lanterns in a dark corridor. You feel the pull of the filament itself, as if it were a gravitational river guiding all within its reach toward the nodes where clusters gather. It's as if the universe is both a vast ocean and a delicate web, currents and strings intertwined in a cosmic tapestry. You think of your own place within this grand design, how the Milky Way itself is part of such a filament, flowing toward the Virgo cluster, and beyond that, the Great Attractor, a mysterious gravitational pull that shapes the motions of thousands of galaxies. The local group, your cosmic neighborhood, is caught in this flow, moving inexorably along the currents of the web. Even now, the galaxies you watched merge are not isolated. They are threads woven into this larger pattern. You marvel at the scales involved. The cosmic web spans billions of light years, yet its influence reaches down to the very atoms within your body. Every particle, every molecule, has been shaped by the flows within this web. You feel connected not just to the stars you see at night, but to the invisible structure of the universe itself. It is a reminder that everything, every moment, every breath, every heartbeat, is part of a larger dance, an unending flow of matter and energy and time. As you float along a filament, you notice a faint glow ahead, a protocluster forming where multiple streams of matter converge. This is a place of birth, where galaxies are not yet fully formed but are gathering the gas and dark matter needed to ignite new stars. You watch as gas clouds swirl and collapse, as gravity sculpts new galaxies from the fog of the early universe. It is a slow process, unfolding over millions and billions of years, yet you feel the energy of creation pulsing through the space around you. You sense the interconnectedness of everything here. The cosmic web is not just a structure of matter, it is a network of relationships, a flow of influence, a rhythm of becoming. Galaxies are not islands. They are nodes in this vast pulsating web, constantly shaped and reshaped by the tides of gravity and time. As you move away from the protocluster, you look back and see the web stretching endlessly in every direction. A luminous lattice glowing faintly in the darkness, a cosmic map of connection and flow. It is both immense and intimate, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, nothing is truly separate. You feel a deep calm settle over you, a sense of belonging not just to a galaxy or a star, but to the universe itself, the great web that holds all things in its gentle embrace. And as you drift there, suspended between galaxies, you realize that the story you've been following, the merging of galaxies, the birth of stars, the dance of black holes, is but one movement within this endless cosmic symphony. And the music plays on. The music plays on. You linger, suspended in the vast cosmic web, where galaxies thread their silent path through darkness. But here, in this delicate lattice, light and shadow dance together. not as opposites, but as companions weaving the fabric of reality. You feel the gentle pulse of photons emitted from distant stars, travelling for millions of years, their journeys intersecting with the vast swaths of shadow cast by unseen matter. The interplay between illumination and obscurity is everywhere. It is the universe's quiet language, a dialogue written in beams and absences. You float toward a galaxy caught in this dance, a majestic spiral, radiant and partly veiled in dust lanes. Light spills from millions of stars, their warmth stretching across space, touching planets and clouds and distant observers. But shadows fall too. Dark nebulae drape across the arms like silk curtains, hiding newborn stars and cooling gas in their folds. You reach into the shadowed regions, and even in their darkness, you feel life, the quiet promise of birth. These shadows are not empty. They are cradles, secret chambers where creation's next chapters write themselves in molecular clouds and quiet gravity. As you glide along, light bends, curved not only by matter, but by time itself. You think of gravitational lensing, where massive bodies warp the path of photons, stretching images into arcs and rings. You imagine distant galaxies multiplied, distorted, appearing where none should be. It is a cosmic mirage, an echo of light shaped by shadow's unseen hand. You drift through one such lens now, surrounded by the warped glow of a distant cluster. The shapes twist and shimmer, a celestial kaleidoscope. It feels dreamlike, fragile, a reminder that perception itself is a dance between what is and what appears. Beyond the visible, shadows deepen. Dark matter, silent, invisible, shapes the contours of galaxies and clusters. Though you cannot see it, you sense it everywhere. A soft presence curving space, guiding light and matter alike. It holds galaxies together, sculpts the cosmic web, and leaves fingerprints on every ray of light you witness. This unseen partner of the universe casts a shadow both literal and metaphorical. The dark matter that is the scaffolding of all structure, the weight beneath the glow, and there are shadows within light too. In star clusters, you see the ghostly remnants of stars long gone, white dwarfs cooling in silence, neutron stars spinning like cosmic lighthouses, black holes waiting with patient hunger. Their presence is felt in the gaps between shining suns, in the subtle motions of nearby stars tugged by unseen mass. You watch as a binary pair dances, one star feeding its companion, casting shadows that ripple across space. These echoes of past life remind you that light and shadow are intertwined. Death leads to birth, disappearance to creation. You drift further into the diffuse glow of the intergalactic medium. Here, the balance shifts. Light thins, shadows stretch wide. Ionized gas glimmers faintly, energized by the collective light of thousands of galaxies. It is a cosmic fog, a whisper of existence between the islands of stars. Within this expanse, the echoes of ancient events ripple. Supernovae, quasar outbursts, galaxy collisions, all leaving faint imprints in temperature and density. You feel the slow unfolding of time here, the layering of echoes like rings on a tree, each telling a chapter of the universe's past. As you hover in this delicate balance, you reflect on the nature of these echoes. Light travels fast, but shadows linger longer. Time delays folded into the vast distances between stars and galaxies. When you look at distant objects, you see them as they were, not as they are. You are, in effect, gazing into the past, catching whispers of events long concluded. Every photon you catch carries a story, every shadow a memory. The universe is a tapestry of echoes, a symphony where each note is layered over time. You think of your own memories, how they echo inside you, how light and shadow shape the stories you carry, how moments of joy and loss intertwine, shaping who you are. The universe's dance is reflected within you, a mirror of light and shadow, presence and absence, motion and stillness. In this cosmic interplay you find comfort. The shadows do not threaten the light. They complete it. They give it depth, meaning, context. Without shadow, light would be meaningless, a flatness without form, and without light, shadows would be empty, voids without contrast. Together they create the infinite gradients of the cosmos, the subtlety of existence. You linger longer, bathed in this quiet duality. The universe hums with it, the glow of stars and the dark curves of gravity, the brilliance of youth and the soft fading of age. You feel part of this dance, a note within the endless melody. And far ahead, beyond the veil of stars and shadow, you sense the next movement beginning. A pulse in the web, a shift in the flow. The universe, in its infinite grace, prepares to unfold again. And you wait with it, in the soft balance of light and shadow. And you wait with it, in the soft balance of light and shadow. The universe holds its breath, not in urgency, but in reverence for the vastness that stretches beyond what the eye can see, beyond what the mind can fully grasp. You drift gently away from the glow of clustered galaxies, beyond the shimmering threads of the cosmic web, into the quiet infinity that lies at the edge of all that we know. Here, space itself feels more expansive, more fluid, an endless sea of possibility suspended in the silence between moments. You float in this quiet infinity, surrounded not by stars or galaxies, but by the subtle whisper of empty space. It is not emptiness in the sense of nothingness. Rather, it is a calm full of potential, the dark canvas upon which the cosmos paints its next masterpieces. You sense that this vast openness, this seemingly empty void, is itself alive with subtle energy, with quantum fluctuations and the soft murmur of space-time stretching and bending. Here, time slows even further, folding gently into itself, a soft rhythm that beats beneath the measured pulse of galaxies. In this silence, you feel your own breath slow, your thoughts drift free. It is as if the universe has invited you to rest, to release the need to understand fully, to simply be present in the moment of vastness. You realize that this quiet infinity is the place where beginnings and endings blur, where the cycle of creation and dissolution folds into itself like the petals of a cosmic flower. It is a place of profound stillness, where the echoes of past events fade gently and the promise of future unfoldings hums softly. Far away, galaxies will continue to dance, to merge, to be born and reborn. Stars will ignite and expire, black holes will spiral and merge, and the cosmic web will pulse with the movement of matter and energy. But here, in this space between spaces, you find a pause, a moment suspended beyond the rush of time and the pull of gravity. It is the quiet before the next breath, the stillness before the next song. You feel drawn deeper into this infinite calm, a sensation of drifting beyond not just distance, but beyond the very structure of reality as you know it. The boundaries between space and time, light and shadow, presence and absence, begin to soften and blend. You become aware of the universe not as a collection of objects, but as an unfolding process, a dance of energy and information flowing endlessly in all directions, weaving the fabric of existence anew with every passing instant. your thoughts slow to a gentle rhythm, echoing the cosmic pulse. You remember that all the galaxies, stars and particles you have seen are part of this larger flow, ripples on the surface of an infinite ocean. And even as you feel your body relax, your mind expands, touching the edges of understanding that the universe is both infinitely vast and intimately connected. The same forces that shape the spiral arms and merge black holes also sculpt the quiet infinity you now inhabit. As you float in this space, you become aware of faint flickers, distant glimmers of light born from the earliest moments of the cosmos. These photons have travelled billions of years, crossing vast emptiness to reach this very point. They are echoes from the dawn of time, whispering the story of the universe's fiery birth and its slow, steady unfolding. You reach out to touch these ancient lights, feeling their warmth as a reminder that even in the quietest infinity, the story of creation is alive and ongoing. And somewhere beyond the edge of perception, you sense the future waiting patiently. New galaxies forming from clouds of gas, new stars flickering into existence, new worlds cradling the seeds of life. The quiet infinity is not an end, but a beginning, a canvas for endless possibility and transformation. You rest here now, embraced by the vast silence, carried by the slow rhythm of time and space. You are a part of this infinite dance, a single note in the eternal song of the cosmos. And as your breath deepens, your thoughts soften, you feel a gentle peace settle over you. The peace of knowing that in the quiet infinity beyond, all things continue, all things evolve, and all things are connected. You rest in that vast, quiet infinity, a single note in the endless cosmic song, as the slow rhythm of time and space carries you gently onward. And now, from this place beyond perception, you begin to sense the dance, the timeless waltz between light and matter that breathes life into the cosmos itself. This dance is ancient and unceasing, a weaving of energy and substance that has shaped everything you know and everything you have yet to imagine. Matter, with its solidity and weight, holds the universe's form. It builds the stars, the planets, the swirling arms of galaxies, the dark cores of black holes. But matter alone is stillness. It is the frame, the stage, the potential for motion. Light, in contrast, is the breath of the universe, fluid, fast, radiant. It carries energy, information, warmth, and life across the vast emptiness, stitching together matter in a luminous web of connection. Together they move in patterns both simple and intricate, from the smallest atoms to the largest clusters of galaxies. You float now amidst this dance, feeling the pulse of photons streaming from newborn stars, tracing paths that will journey for millions or billions of years. Each beam is a traveller, carrying the story of its origin across the void, and where light touches matter, transformation occurs. Gas clouds warm, electrons shift, atoms combine, and new stars ignite. You sense the constant interplay, light shaping matter, matter bending light, a cycle without beginning or end. Nearby, a glowing nebula stretches out, a vast cloud of gas and dust, lit softly from within by young stars newly kindled in gravity's embrace. You watch as light spills into shadowed regions, illuminating swirling filaments where matter condenses. Here, the dance quickens, matter gathers, pulled by gravity's gentle but insistent hand. Light responds, warming and energizing the cloud, prompting chemistry and motion. It is a waltz of creation, slow and deliberate, yet bursting with possibility. As you move through this luminous cloud, you feel yourself become part of the rhythm. the motion of particles, the shimmer of radiation, the silent force of gravity, all weave together into a harmonious flow. Time seems to bend, stretching and folding in response to this interplay. You realize that the dance of light and matter is also a dance with time itself. Every photon, every atom carries a memory, a trajectory shaped by past interactions and future potential. The present moment pulses with the echoes of countless encounters, each one part of a larger cosmic choreography. You drift toward a young star cluster, where the heat of fusion has ignited countless suns in close proximity. Their light blazes with brilliance, but you notice something subtle, a pattern in their orbits, a resonance that suggests an unseen conductor guiding the ensemble. Gravity, again, is the maestro. It pulls the stars into a delicate balance, preventing chaos while allowing freedom. They move in patterns of ebb and flow, a celestial dance of harmony and tension. In the heart of this cluster you sense the presence of dust and gas still swirling, remnants of the star-forming cloud. Light filters through these clouds in golden shafts, casting long shadows that ripple and shift. You watch as some regions grow denser, cooler, ready to collapse and ignite new stars in the next act of this timeless dance. The cycle of birth, life, and transformation continues endlessly. Beyond the cluster, you see the glow of a supernova remnant, the last breath of a massive star that ended its life in a brilliant explosion. Its light still radiates, and the shockwave pushes outward, sweeping up matter and triggering new waves of star formation. Here, death is not an end, but a vital part of creation. The echoes of that explosion ripple through space and time, reminding you that the dance of light and matter is also a dance of endings and beginnings, of loss and renewal. You drift further into the vast expanse between galaxies, where matter is thin and light stretches across unimaginable distances. Here, the dance slows but does not cease. Cosmic background radiation hums softly, the afterglow of the universe's birth, filling all space with a faint, steady light. This ancient glow is a reminder that the dance began long ago, and will continue long after the stars have faded. In this space, you sense the subtle tug of dark matter, unseen, silent, but essential. It shapes the flow of matter and light alike, guiding galaxies in their paths, shaping the cosmic web's filaments and voids. Even in the quietest places the dance persists, an unending interplay between the visible and invisible, the bright and the dark. You realize that this dance is not separate from you. The atoms in your body were forged in stars. The light that streams through your eyes is part of the same cosmic flow. Your thoughts, your breath, your very presence are echoes of this timeless waltz. You're both observer and participant, carried by the rhythm of light and matter, of gravity and time. As you settle into this understanding, you feel the universe's vastness wrap around you like a comforting cloak. The dance goes on, complex, beautiful, infinite. And you too are part of its endless movement. And just as you begin to fully surrender to this cosmic rhythm, you sense a new movement approaching, a shift in the dance that promises a new chapter in the universe's unfolding story. You sense a new movement approaching, a shift in the dance that promises a new chapter in the universe's unfolding story. From the vastness of dark space and the gentle hum of cosmic rhythms, the awakening begins. It is subtle, not thunderous, but profound. A stirring within the cosmic fabric where matter gathers, light kindles, and worlds begin their slow, deliberate journey from chaos into life. You find yourself drifting toward a young star system, nestled deep within a spiral arm of a galaxy, born from the ancient dance of mergers and flows. Around its star, a brilliant, steady sun swirls a disk of dust and gas, a cosmic nursery. You watch as particles drawn together by gravity and stirred by turbulence begin their slow embrace. Tiny grains collide and cling, forming pebbles, then boulders, then protoplanets. This is a world in its infancy, a fragile gathering of matter destined for transformation. The process is delicate and beautiful. You feel the rhythms of accretion, the subtle pull of gravity, the friction of collisions, the cooling of heated rock and ice. Each moment carries within it the possibility of creation or destruction. You imagine the countless collisions that will shape this world's form, the forces that will mould its mountains, carve its valleys, and fill its oceans. And though this newborn planet is only a collection of dust and rock now, you sense the promise within it, the promise of a surface where life might one day take hold. You drift closer to the star, feeling its warmth wash over the forming world. The light is gentle, yet insistent, a sustaining force that will drive chemistry and climate for eons to come. It bathes the planet in a glow that softens shadows and ignites sparks of energy. This star is not merely a ball of fire. It is a mother, a source, a steady heartbeat around which all life might dance. The planet's orbit is young, not yet fully stable. You watch as gravitational nudges from sibling protoplanets and passing debris push it into a slow wobble, a dance of balance and tension. You feel a kinship with this fragile rhythm, a reflection of your own precarious balance in the vast universe. In this dance, chaos and order mingle, shaping a future that is both uncertain and full of potential. Around this emerging world, gas clouds swirl, rich in the elements that will one day build atmospheres, oceans, and living things. You watch as ultraviolet light from the star interacts with these clouds, breaking molecules apart and sparking chemical reactions. In the quiet folds of space, complex molecules form, the building blocks of life's future tapestry. The process is slow, gradual, but relentless. Life's earliest whispers are carried on the breath of atoms dancing in starlight. You think of Earth, how it once was a newborn world like this, wrapped in swirling gas and dust, shaped by gravity and light. How, over billions of years, chemistry became biology, and biology grew into consciousness. The story of this planet is a mirror of countless others, possibilities scattered like seeds on the cosmic wind. Some will never sprout, others will bloom into complexity beyond imagination. You linger over this world's surface, imagining the slow turn of days and nights, the gentle sweep of seasons, the pulse of tides driven by distant moons. You sense the quiet accumulation of moments that will one day lead to life's first breath. The awakening of new worlds is not sudden. It is a patient unfolding, a gradual gathering of light and matter, time and chance. Beyond this star system, you see others, newborn planets orbiting their own suns, each with its own story waiting to be told. Some are bathed in intense heat, their surfaces molten and wild. Others lie frozen in shadow, waiting for the light to reach them. Across the galaxy, the dance of planetary birth continues, countless worlds rising from the cosmic dust, each a note in the universe's endless symphony. You feel your thoughts expand, touched by the vastness of possibility. Each world is a spark of hope, a chance for life's eternal song to find new voices. and you realize that the awakening of new worlds is not just a story of matter and energy, but of connection between star and planet, between light and shadow, between past and future. As you drift in this space of potential, you sense the rhythm quickening, a pulse in the cosmic dance that hints at what comes next. The awakening is ongoing, but it is also the beginning of something more profound, the emergence of life, consciousness, and perhaps, in time, the reflection of the universe upon itself. You settle into this moment, carried by the gentle tides of gravity and light, knowing that the story of new worlds is also your story, a part of the infinite unfolding of the cosmos. And as the star's light warms your imagined skin, you feel the first breath of that awakening. The quiet, persistent stirrings of life's cosmic dance beginning anew. And as the star's light warms your imagined skin, you feel the first breath of that awakening. The quiet, persistent stirrings of life's cosmic dance beginning anew. It is here, in this tender moment between potential and realization, that you come to understand the universe's true nature, not as a static expanse, but as an endless story of becoming. The cosmos is a poem without end, a melody that unfolds across time and space, forever evolving, forever renewing. You drift gently through the cosmos, watching as stars blaze and fade, as galaxies collide and transform, as worlds are born and shaped by the forces you have come to know so intimately. Each moment is a thread woven into the vast tapestry of existence, and every event, no matter how small or grand, plays a part in the infinite dance. The universe does not pause, it flows, endlessly and gracefully, like a river that never ceases to sing. You think of your own life as part of this great unfolding, a single breath within the cosmic waltz. Your thoughts, your memories, your hopes and dreams are echoes of this timeless becoming, reflections of the universe's endless creativity. And as you rest in this understanding, a deep peace settles over you, the peace of belonging to something larger, something eternal. In this peace, you realize that the journey you've traveled, from colliding galaxies to the birth of new worlds, is not just a story about space, but about transformation itself. It is a reminder that all things change, that endings fold into beginnings, and that within every moment lies the seed of infinite possibility. The stars above, the galaxies beyond, and the life within you are all expressions of this endless story. You feel your breath slow, your heart steady, as the universe hums softly around you. The light of distant suns touches your spirit, and the shadows of the cosmic web embrace you gently. Time stretches wide and deep, inviting you to surrender to its flow, to become one with the dance that has no beginning and no end.